birthday boxes was a pride activity that we did in the month of May for Zeal, because we're showing our love towards God in all that we do. And we picked this because God was showing and caring for other people in His love. So each grade was assigned an object to bring to put in a birthday box, or we changed it to birthday bags. So kindergarten brought candles, kindergarten did sprinkles, first grade did cake mix, second grade did icing, third grade did party hats, fourth grade did tablecloths, fifth grade did birthday plates, sixth grade did happy birthday banners, seventh and eighth grade did birthday napkins. So they got in their pride groups, did a circle, and talked about how they were going to give to others. And they made the bags. And once we were done making the bags, a week later, we walked them over, the first and second graders, to the food pantry, because it's across the street from our school. And we delivered them to the food pantry. The food pantry loved the birthday bags because they said May and June and July are major birthday months. And they go, this is a great way to help people that can't afford to get birthday items for their kids to celebrate. So the kids loved dropping off the bags and seeing that they were helping others around them.
At St. Ambrose School in St. Louis, we have every family cultivate a family virtue at the beginning of a school year, and we tell them that it can be whatever virtue speaks closest to their heart. We ask them to read the Colossians prayer together as a family, to choose their virtue or cultivate their virtue. We ask them to take a selfie with it and send it to school. And we post these selfies on the wall so that they can remain there for the duration of the school year. Just as a reminder that virtue is within us, but also is something that can bring our families together. During Catholic Schools Week, we have a family night, and during that family night, we have a bunch of fun props that the families can use to take more virtue selfies, and then, of course, we add those to the wall as well. So our hope is that by the end of the school year, that we have virtue just overflowing in our community.
At St. Mary's School in Mount Vernon, we do First Friday circles where each class goes with a different class in the school. We get together and do a prayer circle, talk about the virtues, do simple activities related to that virtue or a service project for the month. One of the projects Mrs. Trentman has done with other classes are these match crosses. For May, during Mother's Day, 5th grade and kindergarten went together and made these flowers for their mothers, and then they put their picture in the center. Virtues Are Sweet was done by another group of classes. We also, every 2 years, have the students compete to design a virtue t-shirt, and then all of the students are given one to wear for their First Friday circles.
At St. Joachim and Anne, our theme this year was Guardians of Hope, and something that we have done in the last several years is involve our 8th grade classes. So for religion, at the beginning of the year, they're given the yearly theme, which for us, again, was Guardians of Hope, and each month had a different virtue. And so they have to brainstorm some sort of way to present an assembly to the whole school, and this kicks off our year, and they have to figure out, for this particular year, they had to figure out how are they hope to other people, and they had to use things that made sense to school-age kids, not something that an adult would do. So they had to pick a different virtue from each of the month's virtues and come up with some way to actually show an example of how they are able to be hope for others through the virtues that we're going to study. And then throughout the year, each month, we focus on a virtue, and we also focus on a holy hero. And one other blessing we have is our music director is a very talented man named Orrin Johnson, and he actually rewrites a brand new theme song for us every year, teaches it to the kids at the beginning of the year at the kickoff, and we use that and incorporate that in our masses. So it's kind of exciting, and it always keeps our theme very focused, and they're aware of what's going on.
So we organize our school into school families, which we call prides, because one of our hashtags is that we're unified with pride. It's one of our little catchphrases. And so this year we had 8 families, and the 8th graders led every family. And in each family they have their kindergarten buddies, and we, because our 7th and 8th grade is combined, it's 7th and 8th grade with kindergarten buddies and 6th graders with pre-K buddies. And then those families consist of kids from every single grade, and then every Friday, which is our half day, it's our Virtue Day. And every pride has their own color Virtue shirt. We have the same design on every shirt, but then each pride gets their own color that the 8th graders got to pick out. And so everyone comes to school in their pride shirt. We go to mass together with our prides, kids from every grade in one pride. And then at 11 o'clock on that Friday, we always get together in a spot where they do an activity that teaches them about the virtue that month. And then they, sometimes they do a really fun physical activity, sometimes they do a STEM activity, but it's always rooted in virtue in some way. One time the 8th graders helped the little ones cut out their hands, and the virtue of the month was respect. And then kids from the prides each put down what are ways that you show respect, and then these were all then displayed in the hallway for the rest of the month until we did our next activity. And the next, if you get to see one of the activities we did this year, that would be the next display. The last virtue activity we did was make birthday boxes for the St. Vincent de Paul Society. So all the ingredients that were brought in to put into the bags were donated by families and teachers, and cake mixes and little candles and all that good stuff, because a lot of these families don't have opportunities to be able to do that for their family members. So it's always too, we're thinking of service opportunities that we can do. One day we all brought in cans, and then they did a can stacking thing, and then each pride took their cans to the St. Vincent de Paul Society next door. So we always try to incorporate a family atmosphere. They know that every kid has someone that knows them in the school at every grade level, and then at the end of the year, that is their team that they do field day with. And so it's just a really great way to build community in your school. We have about 144 students, so it might be a little bit easier for a school our size, but I do know with schools that are larger that do families, they might break them into either bigger groups or just have more families, maybe up to 20 families, things like that.
Well, welcome. The SAVE Foundation, I always like to start the presentation off by telling you what that acronym means. The acronym for SAVE is Social Action and Virtue Education. And so we created that foundation about 2 years ago. So I also like to kind of give the history of how it started. As some of you have already heard, Holy Trinity in St. Anne was one of our pilot schools. So when we were in year 4 or year 5, we had a group of teachers and a group of parents who realized that this is something that we want to share. We don't want to just keep it in our school, and we really want to be able to get out to the families, the parish, and the community, and whoever this message needs to be brought to. So that's when we were able to partner with Catholic Charities called Catholic Campaign for Human Development, and we found that our mission for this type of advocacy work was in line with theirs. And so we were able to get our first local funding for that. And so with this nonprofit, we've been able to communicate in different ways in different groups to really spread DDRD. So one of the first things we did with our grant program was to create more of the education part. So as you all met yesterday, Frida, who is from the International Institute for Restorative Practices, we wanted to create a resource hub here in St. Louis, so that part of our mission statement is with low-income families, so that low-income schools that couldn't send their professionals to get training in restorative practices in other areas of the country, or low-income individuals may be able to take the on-site portion of these online classes here in St. Louis. And so as you heard, in addition to Lynn's master's, that also allowed her to get her certification in this. So now Lynn can actually teach restorative practices here in St. Louis as a like little hub for all of us to have that resource. In the next year, this current year, we've just finished. I'll be trained. Margaret Ollie from Holy Trinity will be trained to also provide this resource for everyone. About 4 years ago, we started this thing, no homework night, as a way to get our families involved. We had tried over and over again to get them to come to us, and we were not having much success. So we decided we were going to go to them. What we do is once a quarter, we take our virtue that we're focusing on that quarter, and we make an assignment for them to do instead of them having homework. So their teachers, pre-K through 8, are not allowed to assign any homework on that night. Instead, they are getting a VBRD activity. The only thing they can have is if they have a spelling test, they can study for that. It's the only assignment they're allowed. So we have, I send home a flyer in the Thursday folders, which go home with our oldest student in each family, and they get whatever they need to complete the activity. So sometimes these stars were from, we made an American flag, and each family was a star on the flag for the virtue of unity this year. We did Hearts of Humility, which is where this one came from. I always try to define the definition for the families, and we do always do them during the end of the quarter, which gives them time to, the students time to really discern that virtue at school and really learn about it a little more before they have to jump in and do it at home. When we started this, we had about 20 to 30% of families participating. This past year, on every one, we had between 70 and 80% participation. We also have seen more buy-in from families where they are coming back to some of the things we're doing at school. This year we had a family virtue night during third quarter conferences. Each class worked on one virtue and did a project, and they were displayed in our gym, and the families walked through, and we had a lot more participation in that. The kids presented them to their families during their conference time, so that was another great way to get them involved and seeing them there at school more. We gave them on Thursday nights, and they had till Monday morning to complete the assignment. That way, if you have something that's pressing on Thursday, you still have all weekend to get it done. On that Monday, if you completed your assignment when you brought it in, they were allowed to wear their virtue shirts that we have at our school. And so that way at Mass, you could really see them. They're all in their virtue shirts. It was another little incentive to get them more involved. I have a quote from a parent here who said that they loved no homework night because they would always order pizza as a family and work on their activity, and it was a great way for them to just work together and get involved more. So we saw, like I said, a lot more buy-in, a lot more participation, and we have been branching our no homework at night out. We started with these. Every time we made sure it was something that we sent to them. Our committee worked on that, so I had 2 people on our committee that would make it and get it ready, and 2 people then would hang it up and display it in the school building. We've now branched out. Last year, the kids made videos for their parents on the virtue of forgiveness and what that meant to them, and they taught their parents about forgiveness. We put it on YouTube, they watched it, and then they did a circle at home on that virtue. And then we kind of checked in with the kids, hey, how did that go? What did you like about that? And a lot of them had some great responses, and you could tell they really did do it. So that was just last year. So it gave them a few years to really learn about what a circle meant first. But it has branched out to them doing circles at home, them doing projects at home, and them just being able to talk about virtue and see the value of what we're doing at school.
We have been doing the VBRD program. This is our 8th year. So as you look at these posters, there are still 2 more left at the school that there's just not enough room. The most important thing that I'm going to explain to you today is how to reach your teachers and get them on board, and how to reach your parents, because your parents are not in school with you every day. They don't know exactly what's going on, and if you send it on a note that goes home, a lot of times they'll read it, oh, that's great, and then it's out of their memory. So it's keeping them engaged the whole time. So I'm going to start at the very beginning when this was all starting. We were one of the pilot schools. I was one of the teachers, the negative Nancy of the group, that said, I don't want to do it. And being the type of person where I don't say no, my principal knows that, and she went straight to me and said, Nina, I need you to be the team leader on the team. So I said yes. And how do you reach your faculty? It's not really my faculty. I'm not the principal. I'm a part of this faculty, and I really didn't know what to do. All I knew was that everybody was trying to teach virtue and there was no organization. So the first thing, number one, get organized. Take the hot mess and organize it. So over here is a virtue outline. We do one virtue a quarter. And once you have your outline and due dates and you actually have the date on the week on what's going on, now you know that the entire school is on the same page. So I'm going to go through this very quickly, but in these binders up here are 7 years worth of virtue outlines. And you'll notice the date, and you'll notice how it's written and how it's structured and what we're doing. So week one, it says classroom. In your classroom, you're going to define the virtue. You can do that by reading a book. You can do that by having a discussion. You can look it up in the dictionary, as long as you're defining the virtue. The whole school does that. Week 2 and week 3 kind of go together. It says school. You're going to do some sort of school-wide activity, and that doesn't mean you're going to get together and take classroom time away and go into the gym or the chapel. You're doing something in the classroom and then it's going to be displayed. So on the boards you'll see that under moderation you'll see Jesus at the table with the lead fish. That will be the activity you're building up to. And there's a lesson inside these binders. There's also the Smile of Gardens, or how to fill your bucket with being a bucket filler. Everybody loves that story. So that's what week 2 and 3 are all about. Some sort of activity. Week 4 is the big week. That's when some things might take some time doing, but it's the community week. You can either reach out to the community that's around your school, or as most of the time we try to reach out to the parents. How do you reach out to the parents? You have to give them the vocabulary. They don't know what we're saying every day. So you're trying to provide the verbiage. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to show you some examples. On our board over here under forbearance, you'll see card tags. These are conversation pieces. So most of the time when they're at pickup, they're inside their car or standing outside in the pickup circle waiting for their child. So what we do, pre-K, we always include pre-K and preschool. Pre-K through 8 came up with 2 scenarios on how to on the virtue of forbearance, and then the team selected about 6 of them, and then we put them on card tags. On student council, we have VBRD reps. Those reps, along with one of the teachers, will go out, knock on their doors, and they will give them this card tag, and they will say, we're learning about the virtue of forbearance. Can you do this activity in your car? So you're providing conversation in the car instead of eating the snack, listening to the radio, pulling out the tablets, or start playing on your phone.
We're one of the pilot schools, so we've been doing VBRD now for 7 years. The first year was only our staff, so we worked on staff circles. We did a book together about virtue, and that's all we did. And so for the last 6 years, we've involved our students and our parents. One piece that we do a little bit differently than most schools, we commit to a virtue and we stick with that virtue for an entire year. So this year, our virtue was peace. Our tagline was, I will be a peacemaker today and every day. And so all of the school-wide activities were related to peace. Now, within the classrooms, monthly, teachers chose their own virtue to work on, but as a school, when we gathered, it was always about peace. Even if you're at a school that does multiple virtues, I strongly encourage, if you're going to do peace, do it at the beginning of the school year, because on September 21st is International Day of Peace. So it's really fun for your kiddos to see that the whole world is gathering together around a virtue. So we always have some kind of kickoff activity. The hardest piece, and I think others have referenced this, is that connection with parents. So we try to create things that instead of them having to come to us, we send something to them to do at home. So we sent pinwheels to everyone and a prayer service. And we asked them to, through the prayer service, commit to living out of virtue as a family. And then we asked that by September 18th, they bring back the pinwheels. It should have their family name on it and the virtue they're choosing to commit to. And then on the day, International Day of Peace, our walkway was lined with the pinwheels. I think creating that visual reminder to our kids that's always out there, somewhere in the building or in their classroom, is an important piece. You know, this is who we are. This is who we are called to be. So these little bouquets were scattered throughout our building as a reminder.
Terry Oslin inspired me on this showcase because Terry worked on the virtue of gentleness, and she said in her school they brought in animals. Everybody got to bring their pets, and they talked about caring for pets and being gentle, and the pets got blessed, and they did it around the feast of St. Francis. And I thought it was the most amazing thing, because every time I take Buddy with me to schools, kids just can't get enough of him. And he's little, and you can imagine how a little dog would affect people, you know, but he'll sit and wait for all the kids to come around. As long as he can see me, they can pound on him, they can do whatever kids do, and so long as he can see me, he'll be fine. And I thought there's got to be something here in the virtue of gentleness that we can teach and learn. But so my niece started talking about this Mudagrees program. We have it up, yes. So this is my quick showcase to say they have a full K-12, pre-K-12 curriculum that aligns with compassion, kindness, empathy. And I'm going to make the connection to say this connects to Pope Francis's message of care for our common home and stewardship of our planet, where we're recycling dogs and we're recycling cats. And when we recycle things, they turn into something very amazing and usable. And that's how God wants us to be. God doesn't want us to kick out or put out or throw out or get rid of anything or anybody or any animal. If we can join that movement about recycling pets, I can't say enough. I have never talked to a rescue pet owner that didn't say they're just so grateful that somebody wanted them. And I thought, how many babies, how many children, how many of us struggle with that same sense of need to belong and our human dignity, that God wants to raise us up. And God gave us dominion over animals, and that if we could do this in a way that's meaningful to virtue education, I'm all in. And so Mudagrees has the curriculum's laid out, and I'm going to leave it up here for you to look at your leisure. And what they're suggesting, I went and took the information, yeah, Ann's Arvana White. They have posters that go with everything. If you connect with a shelter in your own local community, because I wanted a national program, I didn't want something that was just St. Louis, because we have so many friends from out of town. And if you didn't know them before, you're leaving with new friends today after this day is over. So the idea of taking your shelter in your local community, this is a totally free curriculum, completely free, every grade level. Vanna, there. I love the way the lessons are laid out. I think this is a fabulous way for you to integrate. Now you have to add the prayer and you have to add the virtue in. Some of it's there. So this is not a Catholic, it could be someday, I'm thinking about it.
We're going to just talk about our school-wide prayer circle. So at the end of the year, all the teachers came together and they planned out this big school-wide prayer circle in our gym. And so we all went in there and we got in a big circle. Us 8th graders, we sat with our buddies, which they're kindergartners, so they just need a little more help. We started out with a one-word check-in just to get everybody kind of in the mood for the prayers that we were about to say. And so we started out with, like, what's our favorite I think it was what's our favorite summer dessert. And I think that got us ready for prayer. And then after that, we said prayer, and then we did an activity, which our activity, since it was at the end of the year, we did where everybody got a chance to stand up and go in the middle and say like something they were thankful for or a person that they were thankful for that year. It lasted so long. It went like 3-4 times, and it probably took just an hour just to do that. But it was good to see all the people that got up and said what they're thankful for. A lot of kids that were thankful for their teachers, and other students and stuff.